So it all comes down to this. After an exciting and championship-changing weekend in Portland, we're back to London. Welcome to the East End, and we're at the Excel Centre for rounds 15 and 16 of the ABB FIA Formula E Championship. It's time for free practice 2 to kick off. Let's cross over to our commentary team as well and join Tom Brooks, Corinne Channock and Alan Nish for all of the action.
Then we saw Ollie Rowland taking victory in Misano, and then Pascal Wehrlein became the first double victor of the season. Then it was Evans and Cassidy, Da Costa, Evans, and then you can see there, Da Costa in Shanghai, and then both in Portland as well. 4 victories for him in the last 5 races. What a season it's been for this man here, and he is now in with an outside chance of the championship coming into this weekend. This man here, though, Pascal Wehrlein, will be hoping to try and depose him. Sits a little bit further up the order. He is 12 points away from Nick Cassidy's championship lead. My name is Tom Brooks. Alongside me, we've got Mahindra Reserve driver Jordan King, as well as former Formula E driver and current World Endurance Championship driver Andre Lotterer. And gentlemen, we'll come to you in just a couple of moments' time. We'll have a look at the drivers' points, though, first of all, as we look here at the man who is a championship elect going into this weekend. Nick Cassidy came so close to it last year. Let's have a look at the drivers' championship after 14 rounds in 2024. You can see Nick Cassidy there, a 12-point advantage over his teammate Mitch Evans. So it's a bit of a civil war going on within Jaguar this weekend. Then the two Tag Heuer Porsches relatively close to one another. Da Costa, of course, denied that victory offer. He was disqualified from Misano. If it wasn't for that, he would be right in the thick of the action. As a result of it, though, he has got a very outside shot, as I said, of taking the driver's title here this weekend. Further down the order, you can see pretty close for points on the fringes of the top 15. You've got Nico Müller, as well as Sasha Fenestraz and Sebastian Buemi, all pretty close with one another. And the team's championship as well. Jaguar TCS Racing 33 points ahead of Tag Heuer Porsche at this point of the weekend. They need 55 points to be crowned as the title winners here. Let's see whether they're going to be able to do it. And let's take a closer look at this London Excel circuit. Jordan, we'll come to you first of all. This track is a bit of a unique one on the Formula E calendar. It's an inside-outside circuit, different surface changes. What are the unique characteristics of this one from your perspective, from the driver's point of view?
Yeah, as you said, I don't think there's anywhere in the world where you race indoors and outdoors. Quite challenging, changing tarmac. Inside is very high grip. If you walk the track and go and touch it with your hands, it's like sandpaper. And then outside it's more normal, it's more just tarmac. Also another challenge is if it does rain. British summer, it can rain quite often. Then you'll have a dry track and a wet track. It's very bumpy in places. As you see with the blue arrow now, it goes uphill into the Excel Centre and then downhill as you come back out. So lots of changing conditions, changing track characteristics as you go around.
What do you think the main overtaking opportunities on the lap are going to be here, Andre?
Yeah, for sure turn 1, although I tried once and crashed with Antonio there, and that was not so good. But yeah, turn 16 as well, but you know, it's very narrow here, very bumpy, and it's just already very difficult to drive alone here on the limit. But yeah, one of the most difficult tracks to overtake safely. But yeah, definitely turn 1 on attack mode, you can make a move there.
Green light is on then. FP2 gets underway here on Saturday morning in London. The two Jaguars leading the field out onto the circuit, all going in a bit of a Noah's Ark formation, 2x2 out onto the track for the first time this morning. Slightly cooler in terms of weather conditions going into today. Yesterday it was absolutely baking hot. I hadn't stepped outside all day and then got outside of the XL at the end of the day and it was still red hot at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Is that one day where you're happy to be inside, right?
No, the irony is they let me out of the commentary box and got me in vision for the first time and I was stuck indoors still, so I can't win.
But it's that's the big challenge here with putting the tires in the right window to get the peak of the tire because it's a short lap and you know you need to get the fronts working, not to overheat the rears. You might have a shot at maybe pushing 2 or 3 laps, but ideally you get only 1 lap, and to put a lot of energy and temperature in them is not easy to get it for the ideal lap. So I think that's what everyone's going to try to simulate a little bit for preparing the qualifying.
So we understand there's a yellow flag out just down at turn 6 at the moment. That's due to a bit of a damp part of the circuit, so nothing really for the drivers to worry about.
Yeah, when we walked the track on Friday, there's almost like a leak. It looks like it's been there quite permanently, so I don't know if there's a pipe that's burst, but from where there's the bridge, there's a leak, so it's just dropping down. There's a puddle, probably about 1 metre in diameter. So, yeah, it's probably not going anywhere all day.
No, it's a very good point. It has been slightly reprofiled, this circuit as well. 10-16, there's been a bit of construction work going on here at the XL, so that's where the attack mode was activated last year. It's where attack mode will be activated this year. But due to the construction work, it was outdoors. It's now indoors. So, and also the corner has actually been reprofiled. It's a little bit wider going through there now as well.
Yeah, and apparently it's the same surface as inside, or very grippy. So yeah, for sure the lap times and everything going to be a bit different than last year. But yeah, last year it was one of the weirdest things to drive in the rain. You know, rain very slippery outside, and then going back inside and catching the grip. It's very particular to race here.
We heard Sebastian Buemi saying his car was like a swimming pool as well. He was driving around in the torrential rain. We had what, an hour and a half's worth of rain delays or something like that. And you know, as you say, outdoors completely sodden and wet, inside dry and grippy.
The other thing about this track as well, when it's only dry and grippy, it's so physical. I don't know really why, like all the other tracks are fine, but here, the weight on the steering wheel, the fact that you don't have much time to rest, and maybe your rest area is indoors, there's not that much oxygen, you're like fighting so hard in the car to stay alive. So that was very remarkable about that track.
So it's Nick Cassidy then coming into the pit lane at the end of his first few installation laps. No representative lap times really sort of coming in at this early stage in the session. Jordan, what do you reckon about Nick Cassidy and Jaguar? Obviously a difficult weekend for them in Portland a couple of weeks ago, no points on the board, and that brought his championship lead down from 25 to 12 points.
Yeah, we saw last year as well when he was going for the championship. He ended up getting in a bit of a fluster with his teammate, I think at turn 3, wasn't it, or turn 2-3. Lost his front wing, which pretty much cost him the chance at the championship. And then again, as you mentioned, in Portland this year, going for the championship, made that mistake, spun from, I think it was the lead of the race, wasn't it, when he spun, and no points again. So he's put himself under a lot of pressure coming into last weekend, when actually he could have had a decent lead. Yeah, and the reason I bring up last year is we saw it all kick off. So, you know, there's 4 of them, as you say, that are realistically, but I think even Ollie as well mathematically can do it. So if it properly kicks off, there's a lot that can happen.
Well, we saw, as I said, a bit of civil war breaking out with Envision last year. There's a possibility of that this year between Mitch and Nick, because let's be fair, they're not exactly the best of friends, especially at this stage in the season, because there was an opportunity for them to try and work together for the team's championship. Now though, they're so close in the drivers' championship, they can't involve team orders now.
Yeah, well, gloves are off now. You know, last weekend of the championship, and each driver wants to win themselves as much as they probably want the team to as well. They're not going to care as much as about the drivers' championship. So, yeah, it's going to get a bit spicy, I think. And you know, as you mentioned at the start of the show with Antonio, if he didn't have that win taken away from him, he would only be within 5 or 6 points of the lead currently. He's the driver on form at the moment. He's won 3 in a row, 4 races or 5 races on the road before the exclusion. So I think he's probably the one to look out for getting that pole position, to be going for the wins, but it's much harder for him. He needs the 3 drivers in front of him to have a bad weekend and him to have a perfect weekend.
Speaking of a good weekend, this man here, Robin Fry's had a great one in Portland. Double podium for him, just coming through the chicane, clattering his way over the curbs. Proper threading the needle stuff through here, Andre.
Yeah, it's a very technical and tricky part, because you want to take the curves, but as you see there, it's quite rough on the suspension, and you have to be really precise, and there's a lot of time to be gained or lost there, and you need a good front end, which also sometimes gives you traction problems. So when you come out of 13 with traction problems, you lose speed for the whole run on the straight. So yeah, one of the most tricky corners to get right.
Yeah, that's turns 10 and 11, then 12 and 13 is the second part of that chicane. Then we're heading through these right-handed. You see how bumpy the circuit is. We ride on board here with Cassidy, constantly fighting his way through the steering wheel.
Okay, don't see anybody pushing too close behind you. Just keep an eye on that apt car behind.
Traffic
I think he's in
management.
the same sequence as us.
It's an interesting point there, because we saw it in practice yesterday. Drivers going for fast laps right at the end of the session and then getting balked by slower ones on different run plans.
Yeah, well, in driver's briefing, it was brought up yesterday about the traffic. It's such a short lap around here. It's only 1 minute 10 seconds, so one of the shortest laps, really tight and twisty. You've got nowhere to overtake, quite blind as well. So even if you look in your mirrors, it's quite hard. So you rely very much on your engineers, but also it's, you know, you get that one lap in qualifying with the tyres with this rough surface on the inside, so you need to make it work.
Yeah, getting those Hancocks into the right operating window. You can see just how bouncy it is, almost getting
Cars in the air.
Yeah, 3 wheels in the air there.
It's supposed to be resurfaced though.
But it's flat out, but it's almost not, you know. So it's tricky, and then arriving to the braking zone here, the car is all out of shape, and you gotta calm things down, and it's easy to lock up. It's very, very tricky, and also on the systems, you know, all the anti-locking systems. So you gotta get them all right, and that's where Jaguar is strong, and also acceleration. That's why we realized last year. That's why they were first and second in both qualifyings. They had really good traction acceleration. So let's see how it works out this year.
Well, Jag Powertrains won both races last year. One with Nick
Yeah.
Cassidy in the Envision, one with Mitch Evans, obviously. So they're strong around here, and they essentially have built their car for this tight and twisty circuit. So there's a great possibility that they will be the stronger of the two manufacturers between themselves and Porsche this weekend.
Yeah, it could be. Porsche has, I think, the most efficient powertrain. So you see in like the very efficient and energy costly races, they have the best powertrain there, and it really depends where the manufacturers put their focus on, because you can't have everything, and it seems like these are two powertrains that are a bit on the other side of the spectrum.
Just under 22 minutes left of the session. See Pascal Wehrlein sliding his way there through turn 9 out into the daylight. Oh, it's so easy to just run a little bit too deep into that corner, isn't it? And just snatch a wheel on the inside. What's the mood like in the Porsche camp this weekend, Andre?
Very focused.
I can imagine
Yes,
it is.
very focused. I was there. I went to say hi to everyone, and of course, when you have a shot at the championship, you know, you make sure all your homework is done right, and they've come a long way, and to have both cars like that at the front, it's good. And I think, of course, the momentum that Antonio had in the last races brings a lot of confidence, and they know Pascal is a good qualifier, so that's what he needs to be at the front, to be in the mix, especially in this race, and he can really deliver good qualifying under pressure, and especially these type of tracks.
And how important do you think qualifying is going to be this weekend, Jordan? I mean, it's a tight circuit. Andre's already said it's quite difficult for overtaking, and also there's 3 points on offer each day.
Yeah, I think, as we see a replay from Pascal through the chicane, missed the first curb a little bit. It's probably going to hit that second one. There you go. Yes, it's very important here. I'd say it's probably the most important circuit of the calendar. Overtaking is so limited. As Andre said, only really turn 1. That's a strong opportunity. But as he pointed out, he tried it once and it didn't go well. So it's a tricky one, very important. Pascal's been really strong in qualifying this year. And if anything, from the first 10 minutes of this session is to go by, we've got 3 of the championship leaders in 1, 2, 3.
And just away from the championships, we've got this man here, Oliver Rowland, back in the seat after missing Portland due to illness. There's a good possibility he could be a bit of an upset this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. He's a natural, you know, like when the way he wrestles the car, and that can be very rewarding here. You just saw how he was getting out of turn 9 and kissing the wall, so he's not leaving anything on the table. He's on a big push lap there, so yeah, he might be able to. Nice drift as well, so he's really pushing. It looks like he's enjoying himself here. So
He doesn't have anything to lose this
Exactly.
weekend either in the championship. You know, for him to win it, he's got to have the perfect weekend and have 4 people
Have
not
shockers,
score.
yeah.
Have shockers, you know, crash and not score type weekend. So, as Andre's just pointed out, it looks like he's having fun anyway behind the wheel.
Yeah, it's close up there, so it's just a 10th off, and seems like it was a good performance.
Yeah, what we like in terms of the gaps yesterday, we had 22 drivers separated by 1.1 seconds, and the top 10 were separated by just over 0.3 of a second. Let's have another look here at Rowland into turns 10 and 11. Oh, in fact, that's not Rowland, that's Da Costa.
Difficult to recognize them now that they have the same helmet.
Yeah,
Interesting, no?
I know, it's nice and easy for us in the comms box.
Daruvala's 2 laps in a row is stopping in the last corner.
So Da Costa not happy with Daruvalla. As we look here at Rowland, clattering his way over the curbs. I tell you what, the front suspension will be taking a bit of a pounding this weekend.
I think you'll find in qualifying those curbs are going to be fully nailed. They'll be straight over them, but then come the race, they'll probably peg it back a little bit. For that one lap, as Andre said, you can get away with it, and it's high risk, but also high reward. And then for the race, yeah, you probably peg it back a little bit, try and save your back and your suspension.
Just a notice coming up on our timing screen as well. Jehan Darugla has been given a black and white flag for driving unnecessarily slowly. So the stewards have noted what Da Costa has said on the radio and given him a little bit of a warning sign. Does that again, and then it'll either be a reprimand or, worst case, a penalty. As we look at Da Costa threading his way through into the newly reprofiled turn 16 corner, where the attack mode will be activated in the race later this afternoon. So just under 18 minutes to go. It's the two Jaguars that are fastest, Nick Cassidy and Mitch Evans. They sit like that in the Drivers' Championship at this particular point as well. I say that. And Gunter just popped himself up into second quickest. Let's talk about the driver market, because silly season is in full swing. Now, going into Portland, I thought it was going to be Van Dorn going over to Envision. That sounds like it's not quite as likely as we were expecting. And I heard a bit of a rumour going around that it could be an entirely different lineup next year of Jake Hughes moving his way over there and Stoffel Van Dorn at Maserati.
Yeah, who knows? You know, it's a silly season, and yeah, I heard rumours that they would swap basically with Stoffel somehow. So let's see. Interesting.
So Gunter then to DS Penske potentially. Well, who knows? I mean, to be honest, at this point, it's draw names out of a hat and see where they land, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They're all good drivers, you know. So it's important to find a good place to build something strong for the future and have a good relationship. So I think everybody's evaluating that, and yeah, it's opportunities, driver market, who has contracts, who's running out of contracts. So. And it's not easy for the teams to hire a new driver either, because you know you need the experience in this championship, and it's yeah, not many of us out there.
One thing we do know with a bit more probability is that Nico Müller is going to be leaving apt at the end of this season as they venture into their new journey with Lola and Yamaha for season 11. But the likely destination for him is going to be Andretti.
The plan now is to try to do out push, cool push, cool push. You can judge it if you're in the out is not ready, but this is the difference head to the other one. I can't imagine it's going to be ready.
So just a bit of team radio there for Evans, just outlining his run plan. Do you think they're doing a bit of a simulation for what they're going to do in qualifying at this point?
So what he was saying is like out push, cool push, cool push. So, and Mitch was saying, I don't think they're going to be ready because at the out push, your front tires for that first push lap won't be ready. So, but then they'll get some temperature for the next push. But you need to do a cool in between because you're stressing the surface temperature. So you're trying to really get core temperature in the tires, so the construction, the carcass of the tire works well. But then if you overheat the surface, then it doesn't work together. So it's really important to bring everything together and the balance between front and rear. And there's so many ways to warm up these tires the right way. But you know, the earlier you do the lap, the better it is, because there's always the risk of a yellow flag or something. So when you have that lap in the bag, it's always good.
Jordan, when we look back to Berlin, drivers were taking a couple of laps to get heat into the tyres. Obviously, you were racing there that weekend. Compared to somewhere like this, is it more difficult to get the tyres in that window because the lap is just inherently shorter?
But there's so many different factors to consider. You know, there's track temperature, air temperature as well, surface, as we've spoken about, the indoor, outdoor. So here, the track temperature is going to be so much lower than it is outside because it's not got any direct sunlight. Even the colour of the track's different, so it changes the temperature. It's sandpaper inside, it's cold outside. You mentioned Berlin, that's all like old school concrete from an airfield with bits of grass growing through it and stuff, which is quite different to this. So, you know, there's not one rule fits all, and I think you'll find today lots of drivers, or at least teams, will have different philosophies, and then probably by tomorrow it will merge all together, and whoever's on pole, everyone will study what they did in qualifying and then probably do that tomorrow.
Yeah, also a difference in terms of race duration tomorrow as well. We're 37 laps today, 34 tomorrow, so a little bit shorter. And we're not expecting a high-energy pack race like we've seen in Portland, Shanghai, etc. The races before. This is going to be a bit more of a traditional Formula E race, so that means that attack mode will have a bit more prevalence this weekend.
Yeah, well, Portland is very energy sensitive and very easy to overtake, where here it's a lot less energy sensitive. Even during the race, you know, you're only backing your performance off by 10%, not 20%, so to speak. It's so much harder to overtake. You know, Portland, that run down to turn 1, we had 5 or 6 abreast, and you're not going to get that here. So it's very much, yeah, get yourself at the front in qualifying and then try and stay there. Attack mode will help, but I still think it will be, you know, really hard. The problem you get with attack mode is actually being able to put down the 350 kilowatts out that last corner. So if you don't have good traction and you can't get it down, this, you know, this run here, as we ride on board with Buemi, it's actually quite short. You know, it's only a 300-400 metre run down to turn 1. So if you can't get that power down, you sit there wheel spinning, you're never going to get alongside the person into the braking zone.
Well, just under 13 minutes left of the session. Let's head down to Saunders, who's in the pit lane. Saunders, what have you got for us?
What I've got for you, Tom, is a little thought starter to think about. I'm just looking now at the top 5. You've got all 4 Jaguar-powered cars in the top 5, just separated by Verline in the middle of that kind of sandwich. Now, let's think about qualifying. Let's say this is representative in qualifying, and that's how it ends, and that's the start of the race. The drama that will come from that top 4 or 5 at the start of the race, when you've got the Jaguars trying to win the Teams Championship, Porsche trying to spoil the party, I just think we could be in for a very, very spicy qualifying session coming up, and who knows what that will mean for the race, and more importantly, the championships.
Yeah, thanks, Saunders. Really good point there, and I completely agree. I think this is going to be the most important qualifying session of the season. Looking at Pascal Wehrlein's on an absolute flyer as well, as he tries to elevate himself up from 3rd to the top of the order. Attack mode laps now coming in here, Andre, so they're using from 300 kilowatts up to the full 350, and lap times are starting to come in thick and fast. We're going to be in the 110s for the first time.
Yeah, attack mode's one thing, but also the focus is on the 300 kilowatt laps to make it into the duels. So that's the priority. But then if you do one on attack mode, also you want to have a taste and prepare. And I think the team's quite confident he can make it into the duels. So they're also focusing on the optimum qualifying pace. And yeah, Pascal showed that he's.
So we're one of the cars that improved from the 3rd push. Not everyone did.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Tyre's gone.
So Cassidy not happy with the performance of his tyres at this point in the session. He was quite unhappy at the end of practice yesterday, actually, because he was on a bit of a different run plan. Everyone else was on their cool-down laps while he was on the push lap, and he just wasn't able to improve. At the end of the session, he ended up 11th quickest.
Yeah, well, he sounded a little bit dejected there, you know, had a little bleep to get rid of the rude words. But that's a struggle, you know, as we just spoke about with the tyres. That's a struggle that you've got. Can you get them in the right window? As Andre said, you get the core temperature warm is where you get the performance, but if you overheat the surface, you then start losing performance. So can you push earlier? Do you have to spend a little bit longer warming up? How do you cool down? Where do you save the tyres? So we've got a yellow flag. Someone's gone off at turn 19. They're back going again, so no problems there. But yeah, it's a tricky one to manage. And as I said, I think as the weekend goes, it all starts merging together as people work out what's happening. Obviously, 2 cars each team, so you can try 2 different things and speed up that learning process as well.
Yeah, this is Nick Cassidy making his way through that turns 12 and 30. Did he clip the wall there on the outside? If not, it was pretty close.
That was a good lap because it's not on attack mode, and he's P1, isn't he?
Yep, so up to the top of the 110.748. So what's that? 3,300s quicker than Wehrlein.
Was that enough, baby?
That was pretty awesome.
I didn't think we'd have to blur out the the team radio, the engineer's language.
But that's cool because he knew that that lap was mega, and
That's why he asked it.
he asked because that's one thing that's so hard to achieve in Formula E, that the mega lap. And when you're in the flow and the tires in the right window and the front turns and then the rear grips, you can exit the corners correctly and put everything together, brake late, use the front load to rotate the car and be at the right place at the right time everywhere, and then it's really fun. But it can be equally frustrating when it's not like this, because then you feel like an idiot. You can't put things together. But when they come together like that and you know it, it's a cool feeling.
This championship, I think, is the tightest in the world. Berlin in second qualifying from first to last was 3.5 tenths. You know, don't think there's any championship that's that close. A little bit further away at the moment, but I think, as you'll see in qualifying, it will get closer. But still, even 22 drivers separated by a second, and there's no other championship that's quite that close. And as Andre said, it's so hard to get it perfect because there's so much going on, especially here, changing track conditions. As you see, Ollie lost the rear. You can even see here where this chevroned area is. That's a completely different tarmac to once they turn in, and you go over a join as well, and that's exactly where Ollie spun. So as we ride on board with him, you'll see exactly that. He's locked the rears on the way and he's turned in, and the rears just come round as the tyres squeal. So it's exactly as Andre was talking about. It's just really hard to get it perfect.
Just ever pushed too much
In that corner, you want to have the settings, the brake settings a bit on the rear, because you go over this hill and then you're gonna lock up the front, right? And over that, how you call it, the gutter. And but if you over push it a bit, the settings are too much rearwards, and that's how you spin.
We might have time for the second one, but let's plan for out push to 50, out push to 50.
I think there's a slightly delayed message, but yeah, hoping that they can get an extra one. He's got a bit of traffic coming through turn 2.
Qualifying the group stages for this is going to be really interesting, isn't it? Because I reckon we're going to see a few drivers unhappy about their laps getting blocked, because especially if you consider where we're funneling down into here, there's nothing the driver in front can do. There's no room for them to move out of the way at that point on the lap. It's not until it opens up a little bit wider here that you've got the chance. So on board with Evans as he negotiates his way through turns 10, 11, 12 and 13, right up close to the wall on the outside. Just under 7 minutes now left of this session. Jordan, I want to talk to you about Gen 3 Evo, because we're moving into that next year. Lots of tests going on. What's your knowledge of Gen 3 Evo at this point?
Lots of knowledge that I'm not allowed to divulge. What am I allowed to say? So next year, new tyres from Hankook. Looking like they're quite good at the moment. Extra performance from them. Hopefully no more tyre wear, just more performance, but we'll wait and see until we actually get racing with that one. So expect quicker lap times coming from tyre performance. There's a new body kit. Exact numbers on how much more downforce and less drag and all that other stuff is, I suppose, a work in progress. But again, hopefully some more lap time coming from the body kit in the car. And then probably the most exciting part, actually, is going to all-wheel drive. So we're now gaining front-wheel drive. It's only in 350, so when you're in attack or in the duels in qualifying. But how the teams work with that, how you set up the car around that is really quite interesting, and it's a really cool, tech that you can do in Formula E around that, but also the lap time that comes with that, the amount of traction you gain because you've taken a load out of the rear tyre, as you experience at 350 with this current car. You watch them in the duels, how much harder they are trying to get the power down. You put a load of performance on the front tyre and you can obviously drive out the corner much better. So your 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 kilometres an hour is going to be so much quicker in the new generation next year, especially in the duels.
So talk to me about that all-wheel drive system then. Put some flesh on the bones, because if I look at when I've done a track day and I've done it in a rear-wheel drive car compared to a four-wheel drive car, you have to change your driving style. Is that now going to be the case for these drivers here?
No, there will be a little bit of that, but these guys are the top 22 drivers in the world. They can adapt their driving style pretty well. It's not fundamentally going to change a race car. You still brake as late as possible, carry as much minimum speed and get as good exit as you can. but it can just help with that exit. You can use it to your advantage. You know, if you have a little bit of oversteer, actually, you can get on the power and get the front end to pull you out the corner, whereas obviously with just rear wheel drive, when you get onto power and you've got oversteer, you're going to get more wheel spin. So there's maybe a slightly different approach that you can take to maximise lap time, but it's really fun to drive. Every time we've done a test with it and turned it on, it's been really cool.
Yeah, four-wheel drive is quite fun. I haven't been involved in the development of the Porsche, but from my LMP1 days, that was incredible. So you had the ICE engine at the back with 500 or 600 horsepower, and then an extra 450 horsepower at the front. So coming out the corners, you would slingshot, and that was quite amazing. Not to worry about traction.
Also means
wall touch there.
Quite close there for Verline, is it?
Oh.
Just a kiss on the
Steering's
rear.
still straight, so it should be okay.
But it's a good lap time game, as we hear from Verline.
Cool down, we can cool down, we have plenty of time. Let's go, mod 5 please. Slightly. Copy that, which corner?
It's just coming at turn 18 actually for Verline, where he cuts the wall.
Back to the Gen 4, how does it work with the power distribution? Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Evo. Or,
a few years ahead, yeah.
Are the teams deciding how much power they put on the front, or is it like a clear 50-50, or?
It's all up for your own interpretation, I believe. So it's not going to be a 175 and 175. You know, split.
So you could decide to put 20% on the front.
Yeah, you're limited by how much the front can deliver, because the front powertrain's not as good as the rear powertrain. Okay. The rear powertrain at the moment can deliver 350 kilowatts, and it's not a problem. Where you're actually limited on how much you can deliver on the front. The front powertrain, I suppose, for all the viewers, is a standard part for the championship, where the rear is what's built by the manufacturers and everything. So yeah, you're much more limited by what's delivered across the front, but you can still tweak that and decide on how you deliver the power.
So settings going to be very important, very interesting between the teams and who decides to do what.
Yeah, and how you manipulate your balance with those settings, with your driving style and everything that goes into it.
That's one thing that takes the longest in setting up the car. When after the session you sit down with your performance engineer, you go through the lab to put all the settings together, the brake balance, the rotation, the migration, everything.
Jay Penske without his shades on for one of the first times this season as well. I know. Well, still.
It's not stopped him in the past.
No, exactly. He walks around like the Gallagher brothers with his shades on, doesn't he? Anyway, Robin Freint's currently quickest from Sebastian Buemi. So it's a Jaguar powertrain 1, 2, 3 at the moment. The two Envisions leading the factory TCS racing car in third place of Nick Cassidy. Then it's Verline, championship contender, in fourth place ahead of Dennis and then Mitch Evans. Dan Tickton having a good run of things so far in seventh quickest. Oliver Rowland looking to try and gain a little bit of time in the closing stages of this session. We saw him harrying the car through. It's so impressive watching these onboards as you go through. Just the wall's so close to you, but this is the problem, is he's getting balked with a little bit of traffic. That's Verline just up in front. Verline does move off of the racing line at the earliest opportunity. Still fastest in the first sector though, threading it through turns 10, 11, 12 and 13, this chicane where we've seen so many drivers getting it wrong in the first couple of practice sessions so far this weekend. The car just dancing around over these bumps.
So that's the extra, 350 power we were talking about. It's so hard going down that straight that's not straight with all those bumps. The rear's moving around. Next year, it's probably going to solve a lot of that problems. When you go into 350, you can put some of the effort on the front tyre and drive your way through. As he's going to get a load of traffic into the last corner to finish his lap. It's one of the ERTs.
Yeah, just Sergio sets a camera in front. Rowland still does improve, up to second quickest. Seeing a few personal best sector times coming in the closing stages of FP2, but it is the Nissan that goes up into second place, splitting the two Envisions. Envision having a bit of a renaissance in the latter stages of this season. It has been a bit of a dogged defence of their team's title this year. They've been pretty much nowhere all season, and actually last time out in Portland, Robin Freint's got more points in one weekend than he had for the entire season up until that point.
Yeah, we saw a bit of a change from last year to this year. Last year, a lot of the customer teams did very well. I suppose, early stages of development of the new generation, Gen 3. And this year, it seems like a lot of the manufacturers have done much better. So while the manufacturers were probably still running around trying to improve their own powertrain, the customer teams just got on and created a good race car. And this year, it's kind of come the other way around.
I'm pushing.
Yeah, Cassidy there pushing a little bit at the end of the session. His teammate Evans has come over the line seventh quickest at the moment, through into turns 19 and then turn 20. He's got no traffic in front of him, but he's not lighting up the timing screens at the moment, is Nick Cassidy. It's not been a lap time to write home about, and indeed it isn't one for him to gain any time, as he comes over the line fourth quickest then. So at the end of FP2, it's Robin Freight in the Envision, quickest from Oliver Rowland and Sebastian Buemi then. Now we'll see the drivers doing their practice starts. Yellow flag is out. That's only due to drivers going a little bit slow at the end of this one as they line themselves up. Oh, that's what cost Cassidy time. He ran on down at T1.
He was just checking it. He was just seeing what it's like.
It's just giving ABB some bit of exposure on the old sponsorship.
The first corner is always like so important. If you nail your first corner, it changes the dynamic of the whole lap. You know, you have that first thing starting well, a good rhythm, and then you're not on the back foot thinking you need to recover or extra push during the lap, so it's an important one.
Da Costa shaved his beard, by the way. Do you think that's contributing to his upturn in performance recently?
It's more aerodynamic.
It is, isn't it?
It's quicker.
Weight savings, a couple of grams off.
And lowered the centre of gravity as well. It's
Really bad feeling with the car. Got no front ends, no rear support. Car's really unpredictable on the braking into 10.
So that'll all be fed.
And also at 19. But the balance is not there. It's really not there.
Apologies for interrupting Mitch Evans there. Not happy with the balance of his car at the end of that session. So that'll all be fed back to Jaguar's base over in Oxford. And what they'll be doing is probably running some simulations to try and see if they can work out a setup. If you remember back to, was it Sao Paulo last year, when Evans qualified right down the order and then made his way up to go and eventually win the race, basically as a result of the fact that the team had done some 500 laps in the simulator between qualifying and the race. They were able to find a setup that worked, put it on the car, and he went out and it was a completely different animal. Yeah,
it's always interesting because after FP1 you can put all the data to the simulator and correlate everything, the grip settings and what you learn from the track, and then if you have a good sim driver in parallel, you can simulate things. There's so many ways of doing this, but at the end it's what happens on track that matters, and it would be interesting to see how they compare each other with Nick, because Nick had a really good lap. So yeah, the thing is, if you don't have the good front end, you can't have the confidence to commit and rotate the car, then you're a bit on the conservative side, and you don't rotate the car enough, then the car's not straight enough for the exit, and you struggle with traction, so nothing comes together.
Interesting that Nick, super happy with his lap. We heard him on the team radio. But then Mitch only 900ths behind him. So not even a tenth slower, and really not happy. So whether they've got the same car or a different car, at least driving-wise, they're complaining completely different things.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens as we head into qualifying later on today. But let's confirm the results of free practice 2. It's Robin Freight in the Envision, quickest of the lot from Ollie Rowland and Sebastian Buemi. Then it's Nick Cassidy in the Jaguar. So Jaguar powertrain's doing well, first, second, and first, third, and fourth, I should say, rather. The next outlier is Mitch Evans in 7th place. Pascal Wehrlein, championship elect, in 5th position there as well. Good session for Sacha Fenestraz, Dan Ticktum, and also Jean-Eric Vergne on the fringes of the top 10. Further down the order, you've got Sam Bird, Max Gunter, Lucas de Grassi, then Stoffel Van Dorn, Norman Nato. 2 Swiss drivers, Avedo Mortara ahead of Nico Muller, and then Jake Hughes down in 18th place. Antonio Felix da Costa, not a track he particularly has gone well at in the past, hasn't got a top 4 finish here in the entire time we've raced at the XL. He ended up in 19th position at the end of FP2 ahead of Nick de Vries, Jehan de Ruvela and Sergio Sette Camera. 9/10 of a second separating 22 drivers around this 2-kilometre long circuit, setting us up an absolute treat. Let's have a look at Buemi making his way through the chicane. He's been winless in Formula E for the last 5 seasons, believe it or not. Could this be the weekend where he's able to turn those fortunes around? He's under a bit of pressure as to where he's going to be lining up on the grid for next year. And also, likewise, Robin Freight as well. We understand that at least one driver is going to be out of a seat for 2025. both of those putting a very strong case forward, at least at this stage of the weekend. Well then, free practice 2 comes to its conclusion. Now it's all down to the weighbridge for the drivers, making sure that they are all complying with regulations and so on and so forth. What do you think you've learned at the end of that FP2 session here, Jordan?
I think it's a little bit status quo. The championship contenders are at the front. Maybe a little bit of disgruntlement from Evans, as we heard, but he's not in the complete driving seat. No pun intended on that one, compared to Cassidy. And yeah, for me, I think the one to watch actually is probably Ollie. Just when you saw him, watched any of his outboard or onboard, it does look like he's having fun. He's throwing the car about and enjoying it and looking pretty quick. Obviously, the Envisions with the Jaguar powertrain are looking strong, but just from a driving side, it was actually quite a pleasure to watch Ollie driving around. And you know, he's coming back from his illness, so probably got the bit between his teeth to try and get a result.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also the interesting part is when they're going to put the lap together, because you heard the radio message from Cassidy's engineers, and he said, yeah, we're the only one who's improving at the 3rd attempt. So this is also an interesting indication. So if you go on an out push, cool push, and it is good to do that, but it's also a risk. So you don't have that much time in the group qualifying to do this, and yeah, some things can get in the way. So it would definitely be a key factor to get the tires right for that one lap.
Well, some highlights then from free practice 2. You can see the drivers filtered out of the pit lane here at the XL Centre in London. Relatively uneventful session, a few drivers running off circuit, but traffic was the main aim of the game. We saw them threading their way through the chicanes. This was watching Nick Cassidy, championship leader, as he clattered his way over the curbs. Keep an eye out for a bit more of that as we head into qualifying. We saw Pascal Wehrlein as well. Not a bad session for him, inside the top 5. Certainly an improvement on 13th yesterday in FP1. But do you think that's where Porsche are going to want to be at this stage of the weekend?
This track you want to be at the front, you know, so it's still some bit of work to do there. Jake Dennis also looks strong, but like I said, you know, I think now they will really go down to looking at improving the balance a little bit, but really focus on extracting the maximum performance from the tire, because that's really what at the end of the day gives you the grip and where you have the most potential, especially on a track like this where you have to you need the grip, because it's all slow speed, it's quite sensitive to grip, and it's money time now.
Saw a bit of a slip and a slide from Oliver Rowland, despite ending up second quickest. This was at the latter stage of the session, just locked the rears going into turn 19. Over the change of surface and around she went. Thankfully no harm done. As we saw Robin Friends also taking the inside curve there. Again, thankfully no problem. So what are the teams doing now at this point? Da Costa down there in 19th position. Are they communicating with the team back at base?
You see the bit of paper on the table. He's going to fill that out. That will give the engineer an idea of balance of the car, what he wants from it. If we look at the data, they've probably got on their screen 20 lines of data, important stuff that they want, and then deciding on what direction to go. Yeah,
that's what I was mentioning before. That's one thing that takes the longest, because you can program these cars corner by corner, and each corner you probably can have more than around 10 settings. Your brake balance, your
Is that how many you have? 10 settings.
Anti-locking front, anti-locking rear, the whole thing. So it takes time.
Certainly does. Well, an exciting free practice 2 session, which sees Jaguar looking pretty commanding as we head into qualifying. That gets underway at 12:20 local time. We'll join you for that for round 15 of Formula E here in London.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you to Jordan and to Andre as well. What an interesting session. We'll have hot potato in the commentary box, because me and Megan will be swapping over commentaries for the qualifying session coming up later. FP2 goes to Friends. We'll see you for qualifying for round 15 of the ABB FIA Formula E Championship later on. Bye-bye.